Something terrifying is happening to London's rental market, and almost nobody is talking about it. Landlords are leaving, tenants are panicking, and the cost of living in the capital is spiraling so fast that within just 2 years, experts say 99% of Londoners won't be able to afford the average rent. Not £1 million penthouses, not fancy postcodes. We're talking ordinary flats, the kind of homes that used to define middle-class life in the city. So, how did it get this bad? And why are the people who built London's economy now being priced out of it completely? Let's start at the beginning, with the single biggest force driving this disaster. Right now, London's rental market is silently collapsing, not under the weight of falling demand, but because the very people who supply the homes are walking away. Picture this: you're a landlord. For years you rented out a flat somewhere in Zone 3 or Zone 4, collected the rent, covered the mortgage, maybe made a bit on top. That model used to work, but as of 2025, it's breaking down. Here's the reality. A recent report found that 42% of London landlords say they plan to sell up in 2025. Another study found that in the final quarter of 2024, 26% of landlords had already sold at least one property. And when you dig deeper, the scale is terrifying. Nearly 18,000 homes have exited the rental market in just a short period. Why is this happening? Because the math has flipped. Start with the financing. Buy-to-let mortgages used to solve themselves through rising rents and rising property values. Now, interest rates have soared, yields have stayed flat or fallen, taxation and regulation have tightened. One article summarizes, in London, the situation is even more pronounced, with 42% of landlords saying they will sell up in 2025. Then add the supply shock. Research shows that available rental properties in London's private rented sector are down sharply. There's been a 41% reduction in listings since the pandemic. What used to be hundreds of thousands of lettings now is a fraction of that. And this is not just numbers on a chart. On the ground, letting agents are seeing the effects. Fewer new instructions, properties vacant for longer, more sellers than buyers in the rental market segment. When landlords leave, something obvious happens. Supply drops. But there's a hidden consequence too. The kinds of landlords leaving are often the ones with modest portfolios, the ones serving everyday renters, not luxury apartments. This means the standard rental housing stock, the flats families, young professionals, workers live in, is being squeezed hardest. So, you have this scenario: fewer landlords, fewer homes, but still a steady or growing number of renters needing somewhere to live. The pressure pushes up rents. It reduces negotiation power for tenants. It stands as a prelude to the wave we're heading into. And while landlords exit, something else creeps in: the cost pressures. Many landlords are saying, my mortgage is going from £1,000 per month to almost double. The energy bills, the insurance bills, the tax changes, it adds up. When you combine the increasing cost for landlords plus the regulatory risk, for example, major changes in eviction rules plus falling yields, you get a mass exit. The parts of London that relied on buy-to-let for rental supply are suddenly seeing a massive pullback. And for renters and potential renters, this is a warning sign, because when the supply side gives up, the cost is passed on, either in higher rents, fewer options, or both. So that's where we start. The landlords are leaving, the homes are disappearing from the market, and that's the first domino in why London rent is heading into a crisis. Next, we'll look at who's moving in, and why the people renting now are the ones driving the rents ever higher. First, something strange is happening in the capital. The number of working class renters is falling, but the number of wealthy renters, professionals, foreign workers, and digital nomads is exploding. London has become the city of the reluctant renter, people who could buy but don't want to, high earners priced out by strict mortgage rules or unwilling to lock themselves into six-figure debts. These tenants aren't just renting, they're competing for prestige flats and pushing rents up across the board. In areas like Canary Wharf and Battersea, rents rose by more than 12% in 2024. Even modest one-bed flats in zones 2 and 3 now average over £2,500 per month. And here's the wild part: those same renters are often outbidding families because they're dual income, flexible, and can afford to pay up front. So, as older renters struggle to keep up, landlords are simply choosing wealthier tenants. It's not personal, it's math. But this shift, from long-term family renters to transient, high-earning professionals, is changing London's identity itself, and it's about to get worse, because something else is quietly pushing rents up faster than anything else, and it's coming from the very top. For decades, renting in London meant dealing with individual landlords, but now that's changing. Big money has moved in. Investment firms, backed by pension funds and global corporations, are buying entire apartment blocks. They call it build to rent. It sounds modern, efficient, professional, but behind the branding, these developments are pricing out entire communities. Take Wembley Park, for example. One-bed flats there now start from £2,200 per month, built and owned by one of the UK's largest investment funds. Tenants get gyms, lounges, concierge services, but they also get yearly rent hikes tied to inflation. And because these are corporate landlords, there's no personal negotiation. You can't call them, you can't reason with them, and they don't care if you've lived there 5 years. The rent goes up, or you move out. And over 30% of the new London rental housing is now controlled by institutional investors, and that number is growing fast. By 2027, experts predict that more than half of all new rental supply in London will be corporate owned. And here's the danger. Once that happens, they control the price floor. If one company raises rents by 10%, the rest follow, because they own the competition. The rental market stops being a free market and starts becoming a monopoly. Now, here's the brutal math. The average London household income in 2025 is around £54,000 per year, but to rent a typical 2-bed flat in Zone 2, you now need to earn over £85,000 just to meet the affordability rule that rent shouldn't exceed 30% of income. That means even many doctors, engineers, and teachers can't afford to live in the city they work in, and as wages stagnate, rents keep rising. Because the number of people needing a home in London isn't going down, it's going up. The city's population is expected to grow by nearly 500,000 people by 2027, yet construction output is falling. Developers are cancelling projects left and right as higher interest rates and material costs make new builds unprofitable. Less building, more people, higher demand. That's the formula for a rental nightmare. Already, entire sectors of the workforce are being priced out. Nurses commuting from Kent, teachers from Essex, service staff from Luton. London is slowly turning into a two-class city. Those who own property and those who never will. But that's not even the end game, because the real trigger point, the thing that could make rent truly unaffordable, is hiding inside your monthly bill. Every month, renters aren't just paying for space. They're paying for energy, service charges, insurance, and taxes, all of which are rising faster than inflation. Landlords are passing every new cost straight down to tenants. Energy bills that once cost £100 per month are now easily £250 per month. Service charges for apartment blocks, maintenance, lighting, cleaning have jumped by as much as 40% since 2022. And the final straw? Insurance. After a wave of flood and fire claims, London's building insurance premiums have doubled. For older blocks, some insurers are refusing coverage entirely. When landlords face those bills, there's only one place to push the pressure: rent. That's why even modest flats are seeing 3 or 4, 5 rent increases within a single lease cycle. And with no regulation on rent caps in England, there's nothing legally stopping it. So when you hear people say London rent will become unaffordable for 99% by 2027, this is what they mean. It's not just rent, it's everything around it. By 2027, analysts expect the average London rent to hit £3,000 per month. That's £36,000 per year, just for the roof over your head. That means anyone earning under £120,000 per year will be spending more than a third of their income on rent, well above the official affordability limit. The result? A complete reshaping of London's population. The middle class, teachers, designers, small business owners will be forced out to commuter towns. The city will hollow out, leaving only the ultra-rich and subsidized social housing tenants. That's not speculation, it's already happening. In boroughs like Westminster and Camden, private renters now make up less than 30% of the population, replaced by overseas owners and vacant investment properties. London, once the beating heart of opportunity, is becoming an investor's showroom. So, what happens next? The truth is, the system can't keep rising forever. At some point, people simply stop paying. Experts predict a rental rebellion, where younger renters leave the city en masse, forcing demand to collapse. Others believe new government regulation will step in. Maybe rent caps, maybe tax relief for landlords to stabilize prices. But until then, the squeeze continues. And for millions of people, London, once seen as the city of dreams, is quietly becoming the city they can no longer afford to call home. Because when rent rises faster than wages and housing becomes a luxury instead of a necessity, the question stops being, where should I live? And becomes, can I even live here at all? The countdown to 2027 has already begun, and if the numbers don't change soon, London's housing crisis might not just reshape the city, it could erase the idea of London as we know it.